The Ilex Forest is a mythical place in the heart of Johto, home to some new variety of Pokemon, but mostly just Kanto ones. Since I've been playing through different regions using only forest Pokemon, it made sense to try this in Johto, and why not go old school trying this in Silver, the very game I had back in the day. Basically, I'm going to beat this game using only Pokemon you can get from that forest. I'm also on set mode, only held items in battle, and no hacking in rare candies. That last rule means I'm almost perpetually underleveled. Before starting my journey, I have to help my senile mother remember what day it is. I almost feel bad about leaving her in this state, but not enough to actually stay. None of the starters are viable options in this run, though I choose Chikorita, who seems most at home in a forest. She's got a leaf on her head after all. The two of us meet a strange boy with a Cyndaquil and beat him up. The boy's name ended up being GS Ball, the most disappointing thing ever in regards to this forest. I'm still upset at how they handled all that in the show. It was remarkably anticlimactic.
All right, it's clear that the ball is... It's clear that the ball is... some kind of Pokeball.
Anyway, a dude with a very flat and long face shows me how to catch Pokemon, and on Route 30, I encounter my real starter, Weedle. This would have been a Caterpie if I was playing Gold. In these runs, I try to catch Pokemon in the actual forest, but I won't have access to it till post-Falkner, so let's just catch what I can now. And I get rid of this non-forest dweller. I don't need you. My new starter and I absolutely wreck a couple of noobs, also known as youngsters, until he evolves. In this aptly named Dark Cave, I find the second encounter of the run, an eyeless bat, who's only level 2. Why is that so freaking low? As I get through Sprout Tower, my bug fully evolves, becoming a powerhouse, at least for a little while. Hopefully he's strong enough to defeat these two Nepo birds. By the way, Beedrill is a bit overleveled, but it's not my fault. I only have 2 Pokemon. I start with Harden in preparation for Pidgeotto, who comes out after Pidgey is Fury attacked a few times. With some berry healing, it looks like Beedrill might actually go the distance, till Pidgeotto gets a crit, bypassing his increased defense. Dang it, I really wanted to beat those birds with a single bug. Zubat still really sucks. The only moves he has are Supersonic and Leech Life. Supersonic does hit, unexpectedly, and even after getting down to 1 HP, Zubat survives and beats Falkner. Wow, you actually did something, Bat. He deserves a treat, maybe a Slowpoke tail, but those are far too expensive. I struggle getting through Union Cave. Rock Pokemon are a major weakness right now, but I make it through after only a single loss. There's a mighty suspicious rocket hanging out in Azalea Town, but I have far more important things to do. Namely, head into the forest to wrangle up some new team members, like Oddish and Paris. There are a few more Ilex Forest encounters, but they'll have to wait. For Bugsy, I now have a team of 4 Pokemon, though 2 of them likely won't do anything. Once again, I start with Starter, go figure, and begin with Focus Energy. Hopefully some of my furious attacks are crits, bypassing any increased defenses by these Chrysalis. Metapod takes some time, but goes down easily enough, and Kakuna only does a single hit point of damage before falling. Last is Bugsy's ace, Scyther. Now Beedrill's Fury attacks aren't great, but Scyther's Fury Cutters aren't great either. It starts at 10 base power in this gen, so it's not a good move. He switches to Quick Attack a few times, but it's already too late. I beat Bugsy with a single bug. Maybe I should be this new gym leader. It's his fault though, for not allowing 2 of his bug Pokemon to evolve. They're way past that level. What a horrible gym leader. And you'd be a horrible Pokemon fan if you don't subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more Pokemon challenge runs like this. And leave a like on this video too. Unfortunately, as I try to go back to where I belong, GS Ball rears his ugly head to stop me. He starts with Ghastly, who most of my team can't beat, but Zubat now has Bite. My Zubat almost defeats his as well, but after a confusion, I let Beedrill finish it off. Quilava is a tough one, and clearly defeats Beedrill with his Embers. I try to paralyze it with Paris, but being 9 levels lower, and 4 times weak to fire, I didn't expect it to work. And I was right. Small consolation. Zubat barely hangs on, and manages to beat my rival. With him down, I return to our forest home to help a few guys with their Farfetch'd, who are trying to cut down these trees. No thank you? I need these trees. Hitting them repeatedly with my Pokemon's head will yield some more encounters. There's only one problem. No one on my current team has a thick enough skull, but I have a solution for that. I use the old rod I picked up not long ago to fish up a Magikarp. That's not what I wanted, but I catch him anyway.
I don't want to be your master!
No, I need a Poliwag. These guys can learn Headbutt, which I use to find and execute. Now headbutting in Gen 2, let's be honest, it kind of sucks. Not just because most of the time nothing happens, and Poliwag's probably getting brain damage from all this. Even aside from that, there are two types of headbutt trees, and there is one specific Pokemon you can only get from the low chances of battle trees in this forest. The tree locations change based on your trainer ID, so they're basically random. Thankfully, after countless fruitless headbutts, I find an awesome website some guy made that shows where those different types of trees are. All you have to do is put in your ID. That's the tree I want, right there. And right away, I find a Pineco. Just who I was looking for. Too bad he blows up on me. Several Pineco-less encounters later, I get a second chance and immediately throw a Pokeball this time. I learn the error in my ways. I have 8 Pokemon now, but only have room for 6. I drop Magikarp into the box, Gyarados is too strong anyway, and bring out Pineco. I also replace Paris with Execute. So this is the team of 6 Pokemon I'm going to use throughout this video. Many of them have Johto forms, which is why I chose them. It just seemed appropriate. This, unfortunately, brings me to the worst Johto gym leader, Whitney. This will be so much fun, I'm sure. I start with Pineco to try and headbutt Clefairy, who metronomes. Since a single bite almost kills it, Pineco does what he does best instead, explode. I had hoped he could do that against the Demon Cow, but I guess not. We both have clean swaps, allowing me to bring out Oddish, the one girl I have on my team. She paralyzes the cow and starts to flash, trying to lower her accuracy, but it doesn't work all that well. Rather than have a 1v1 honorable battle, the only way I can win here is a war of attrition, which Leech Seed was made for. My eggs then fall in love with this cow, they'd make a weird couple, and are cracked. Beedrill does a pathetic amount of damage with return. Bashing his friend's head into trees multiple times must have lowered our friendship a bit, and then he also falls in love. This cow's got game. Beedrill is then replaced by Poliwag. A single Mushy Scold headbutt then defeats Whitney. Jumping ahead to Ecruteak City, I find GS Ball again. Zubat makes short work of his ghost thanks to Curse. Execute leeches onto Magnemite before I swap into Beedrill to defeat the Magnet with returns. He is crit by Quilava, and Poliwag's Water Gun is a lot weaker than I expected, but at least he outspeeds. Quiz time. Without looking it up, how fast do you think Poliwag is? In my mind, I thought maybe 60, 70, but that's pushing it. He actually has 90 base speed. That's way faster than I realized. Eventually, Quicksilver over here beats Quilava, only to fall to a bat. I try to use Oddish to finish it off with Cut, but she is flinched 4 times in a row. What the heck? There's less than a 1% chance of that happening. I guess it's then time for my bat to get revenge against his. Speaking of, shortly after this battle, Bruce evolves, gaining the ability to see. I take the newly able bat to get his hair done by the better haircut brother. This supposedly makes Pokemon like you more, but I have my doubts. Trying to give kids a haircut is not a fun experience, and I imagine it's similar with Pokemon. Regardless, back in the Burn Tower, I beat Fire Breather Dick so bad, he loses his color and turns into a statue. What happened to you there, man? I do the opposite to these legendary beasts, beat up a couple of fancy girls, and finally get a good water move for Poliwag. For the Morty battle, a resident Ghost Slayer starts off with Bite, as you might expect. I wanted to have a Crobat by now, but the haircut wasn't enough. After Ghastly kills himself with Curse, I swap to Poliwag, who is promptly put to sleep. What a great move there. He too is cursed, as is Pineco, who comes out next. That Time Bomb explodes, because I've got nothing else to do, allowing Golbat to bite again. For Gengar, Golbat is mean-looked, put to sleep, and immediately killed with Dream Eater. That was, unfortunate. Execute tries to do the one thing he's good at, but is Shadow Balled instead. And Beedrill also has his dreams eaten. This is not looking very good for me. Oddish stun spores and flashes 6 times. way more than I thought he would let me. After the 6th flash, Oddish starts to absorb for a minuscule amount of damage. I speed up the game here because this is taking too long, and almost miss the fact that Oddish dies, bringing out my last Pokemon, Poliwag, who surfs Gengar. Last is Haunter, but thanks to my super speed, Poliwag wins the battle. After Golbat died so abruptly there, I was sure this was a lost cause. Before continuing with our journey, there are 2 very important things I need to do. First, with the ability to surf, I return to our forest home a final time to get the very last Pokemon, a Psyduck. I have no intention of using it, but I still need to catch it, so into the box you go. At this point, Oddish evolves into Gloom, which means I need to enter the bug catching contest. One of the best additions in this game, I might add, and the only way right now to get an evolution stone. I catch a Pinsir at full health, so I'm confident I'm going to get the stone I need. I come in 2nd place and do get a stone, but it's an anti-evolution stone. Literally the exact opposite of what I wanted. Come on, Pinsir, that was pathetic. On my 2nd attempt, I get a Scyther and still get 2nd place. And it's not until my 3rd try that my captured bug was finally good enough. And here I thought I had figured out this contest after decades of doing it wrong. I get rid of my bugs, and even though Gloom's moves, let's be honest, they suck right now, they're not really going to get any better until level 44. And I have my doubts she'll even get that high. So I just evolve her now into Blossom. Obviously, we're in Johto after all. While making my way to Chuck, Poliwag also evolves, and that's a pretty cool sprite, actually. Chuck shows off his massive strength by lifting up a boulder, which is certainly impressive since none of his Pokemon know strength. He must be 1,000,000% muscle. I start with my eggs, and for perhaps the first time, I don't rely on Leech Seed. Instead, a few confusions easily knocks out Primeape. I spoke too soon though, because I totally Leech Seed Poliwrath before my eggs are drowned. I try to stall with Pineco, he learns Protect after all, but it doesn't work since a single surf is too strong. Instead, my Beedrill outspeeds the now slower Poly, winning in a few returns. For beating Chuck, I get the ability to fly, or not, because Golbat's mouth is too big. There's nowhere for me to sit. Thankfully he evolves, and Crobat can learn Fly. I ride my bat back to the Slowpoke well, and pester this random guy till he gives me a King's Rock, which I hand to Poliwhirl to prepare him for a possible future evolution. I also head back home and do the daylight savings trick to force a phone call from Gina. Come on lady, I want a Leaf Stone, not a battle. That was barely worth my time. Not only is Gina a time waster, she's also an idiot, claiming that her Bulbasaur had a type advantage against Drowsy. It's quite the opposite in fact, lady. I continue this time-changing charade for quite a while, listening to Gina and her mind-numbing idiocy because I'm trying to get a Leaf Stone, and the only way in Johto you can get them is through Gina. But after what feels like hundreds of pointless phone calls later, nothing. She stubbornly refuses to give me the goods. I finally look online to make sure I have the right girl here, and I do, if this was Pokemon Crystal or the Gen 4 remakes. In Gold and Silver, trainers don't give you evolution stones. Well, that was a remarkable waste of my time. That leaves me with only one choice left. I fly to Goldenrod, look Gina right in her stupid leaf stone hogging face, and delete her number right where she can see me. That's for disrespecting me, lady. Looks like Execute will stay in his eggy form. That's too bad. There is some slightly good news though. Defeating this red Gyarados gives me a red scale, go figure, which I trade to Mr. Pokemon for an experience share. No trade backs now. This is actually a useful item in runs like this, where I don't cheat with rare candies. Some unimportant rocket stuff later, I make it to Price. Absorb is still the strongest grass move Blossom has, but between that tiny bit of damage and Stun Spore, Seal is defeated. Dugong though, Aurora Beams for the knockout. Beedrill does some damage, but after getting slowed down, I pivot to Pineco to do what he does best. This gives me a clean swap into Poliwhirl to defeat Pillow-Swine in a few surfs. With that, I finally return to Jasmine and Amphi to hand over this secret potion. Amphi didn't die this whole time without it, so I'm sure it wasn't that serious. For Jasmine, I don't have any ground or fire Mons, so I'll have to use some other strategies, like Leech Seed with Execute. When he inevitably falls, Pineco comes out to stall. Between Protect, Strength, and Leech Seed, he eventually wins without being hit. This brings out Steelix as I pivot to Crobat. He confuses the Steel Snake and then pivots to Poliwhirl. 2 Surfs knock it out easily enough. Another Surf does a decent chunk to Magnemite, but Poliwhirl is one-shot with Thunderbolt. Pineco does some damage too, but also falls. At this HP, Beedrill easily overcomes that Magnet, getting me the 7th badge. Some more unimportant Team Rocket stuff happens, in the middle of which GS Ball inhibits my destruction of this criminal organization because he wants to fight. Couldn't you have picked a better time? Like literally any other time? Apparently starting with Pineco was not the best move here, so I quickly swapped to Crobat, and my bat beats his, albeit barely. Out comes another Magnemite. This time, my eggs take it out all alone since it only knows Thundershock, and Leech Seed is still a great move. Sneasel is also seeded before feint attacking the eggs, and is quickly beaten by Beedrill. Surprisingly, Quilava is also defeated by Beedrill, but Haunter is not. That takes a Poliwhirl. During our Rocket takeover, Pineco finally evolves. Bug Pokemon aren't that great, but Bug Steel Pokemon are another matter entirely. Let's just say Forretress is in good company. I defeat the guy soon to be known as Archer, save the Johto region, and get a useless item since Lugia cannot be found in the Ilex Forest. Once I get to Blackthorn City, I can finally delete Blossom's cut move, she's had that forever basically, and replace it with Return. She still has a super crappy grass move, but at least this is a small improvement. Now the final gym leader, Claire, is obsessed with Dragonairs. I'm hoping with a King's Rock, Polly can headbutt flinch this dragon, but it didn't work in my favor. That Dragonair is defeated by Beedrill, and a second one is too, but the third proves to be too powerful for him. Instead, Crobat defeats it. He then falls to Kingdra, allowing Execute to come out with a Leech Seed Stun Spore combo. At which point, Forretress stalls for a long while, but thanks to healing, it's not going to work out. So it's time to blow up, again. I rely on that move more than is healthy, at least for Time Bomb. For me it's fine. Even with my explosive victory, Claire refuses to give me the badge until I fetch a Dragon Fang in the caves like 10 feet north of her work. That was a challenge, I guess? On my way to Kanto, Elm gives me another useless item. What am I going to do with this? Thanks for nothing. I make it to Kanto, and during this time Poliwhirl gets to level 37 and evolves. I did hack the game to allow him to evolve, but I will not do the same thing for Execute. Not because I don't like it. I don't, but that's beside the point. This is a Johto game, so the Johto Pokemon get special treatment. Hey, at least I'm open about my biases. For our final battle with GS Ball, at the end of Victory Road, Beedrill makes short work of his Sneasel. Rather than let him die to Golbat, I instead swap to Forretress, who wins in several strengths after being confused. Politoed makes his debut, easily defeating the no longer safe to be around kids Typhlosion. Can't believe they ruined my favorite Johto starter. Blossom paralyzes Magneton and does minimal damage, but this is taking far too long. Forretress instead rock smashes it to the ground. Crobat then makes short work of both Haunter and his Kadabra too. Well, that was a super easy last battle. This brings us to the Elite Four, starting with Nobody Will, who actually beats me. It gets down to our last 2 Pokemon, but Politoed is already hurt, and Xatu is not. Huh, that's only the second loss in the entire video. On the next attempt, Politoed gets his revenge, ice punching the first Xatu, as well as Executor. Don't rub it in, Will. My eggs try and fail to Leech Seed Jinx, though Blossom does manage to paralyze her and hit with a strong Solar Beam until she's put to sleep and ice punched. She almost made it too. Beedrill finishes her off and is immediately Psychicked. Politoed does some damage, but also dies. At this HP, a bite from Crobat is enough. Slowbro takes a bit longer, but Crobat wins that too. That was certainly a rough battle, but I still did have a Time Bomb in the back in case I needed it. Koga should be a lot easier, hopefully. After all, he uses Poison Pokemon, and I have a Steel Bug, who just so happens to know Rollout. Ariados runs away, he must see what's coming, allowing Venomoth to get squashed first, but the spider soon follows suit. Koga's Forretress could block my rollout with Protect, and it does a few times, but after lowering its defenses with a Rock Smash, rollout works well enough. Muck though is a different story, as it gets smaller and I don't want to keep missing. Explosion fails to hit, so that was a pointless sacrifice, but Politoed can show off his new move, Earthquake. That does very little thanks to Acid Armor. Thanks a lot. A few Surfs though drown that sludge, and then Crobat is simply Ice Punched. That was a lot easier. This brings us to Bruno, the only Elite Four member worse than Will. I start with Crobat and try to fly, but the top blocks it perfectly with Detect. Not just once, but twice. After Koga's crappy use of Protect last round, I guess I had a false sense of security. That's alright, Confusion and Fly work together for the knockout. I swap to Politoed on this Onix to Surf, and then give Blossom a chance to beat Hitmonchan with Solar Beam, but it doesn't work out. Beedrill's got surprisingly high special defense, so he can take that Fire Punch and then knock it out. But Machamp squashes him with a rock. Execute Seeds, paralyzes, and confuses him, but still can't go the distance. Politoed can, after a pretty tough cross chop and a heal. Hitmonlee is then surfed, and Crobat comes out to finish with a fly. For Karen, I begin with Starter to Pin Missile. This move is quite a bit weaker for the first few generations, but with enough hits, it should be strong enough to take out the Dark Eevee. He also focused energies to try and get some crits, but it didn't really help. That's fine, he still knocked it out. He is then Flamethrowered right in the compound eyes. Politoed can take this Demon Dog. He knows Surf and Earthquake after all, though Surf is stronger. Too bad he gets Crunch Crit and dies. Crobat redeems him. He's also holding a King's Rock, making Bite even more likely to flinch, so Gengar goes down pretty easily. Murkrow is flinched by a return, and also falls. Last is Vileplume, but this overgrown flower can't handle my bat. Karen was actually pretty easy too. Lance though, will not be. This will be a tough battle, and in preparation, I use 3 rare candies that I've been saving. One for Politoed, Crobat, and another for Toad, just for good measure. We're still like 5 to 10 levels too low though. Alright Lance, let's see if you can handle my Ilex monsters. He starts off pretty strong, Hyper Beaming Beedrill right away. Alright, plan B for Gyarados is a rollouting Forretress. It works well enough, and I'm hoping that in the rain, maybe my Steel Bug can survive Charizard's Flamethrower, but that would be too easy. Instead, Charizard is served by Politoed. Execute Stun Spores and Leech Seeds the first illegal Dragonite, allowing Politoed to Ice Punch twice for free. Blossom also tries to Stun Spore, but misses and is blizzarded by the next Dragonite. Politoed is then paralyzed and hit with a really strong Hyper Beam. He takes out that Dragonite, but succumbs to the third, slightly less illegal Dragonite. Now everything is down to Crobat. I'm hoping that between Confusion and Bite Flinches, he can take out this dragon. But 2 Hyper Beams prove that it wasn't meant to be, and I wipe out again. On my second try, Crobat is again my last Mon, and this time falls to Aerodactyl. After those losses, I come up with a new starting strategy, and let's try again, starting with Execute. He clearly uses Leech Seed and paralyzes Gyarados. When he inevitably falls to a Hyper Beam, Beedrill has a few free turns to knock it out with Return. Aerodactyl Rock Slides, but Blossom survives a single wing attack to Stun Spore. Now that he's paralyzed, Politoed outspeeds to Surf. The first Dragonite is Ice Punched, Toad heals a paralysis, and is punched again. The second Dragonite also paralyzes and Hyper Beams, but it's not strong enough. The final Dragonite then outrages, defeating my Toad. Forretress starts a rollout, and thanks to a lucky confusion there from the outrage, he gets 3 rollouts and defeats the dragon. Flamethrower ends his life, as expected. Once again, it all comes down to Crobat. He still has a King's Rock, so Bite has an increased chance to flinch. Between that and Confusion, I'm hoping that Crobat can do it. Charizard does hit himself, is not flinched, but with Return, it ends up not mattering. And my bat defeats the not fire dragon, winning the final battle. After becoming champion though, there are 2 vital things I need to do before officially ending the run. First, I will now cheat to get a Leaf Stone. and I allow Expensive to finally evolve. He would have been much more than just a seed shooter had he evolved earlier, but I blame Gina for that one. Also, I can't do an Ilex Forest run without highlighting the Forest Protector, Celebi. In Pokemon Crystal and the Gen 4 remakes, there's an event where you can get Celebi here. That just doesn't exist in Silver, so I cheat to get Celebi anyway. I guess that Master Ball wasn't completely pointless after all. Welcome to the team, tiny little Celebi. This is actually the best time to join once everyone else has done all the work. And now, the video is over. I beat the Johto region and became the champion using only Ilex Forest Pokemon. I've decided to end it here and not enter the Kanto region, mainly because of how long Johto already took. Between forcing Poliwag to headbutt countless trees for hours, having to do the bug catching contest multiple times, and dozens of mind-numbing phone calls from the Leafstone hogging Gina, the Johto region took long enough. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be sure to see you in the next regional forest.